Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Assemblyman Bert Gurr's first live town hall of the legislative session this year. This is a big day, a great day for you to be joining us because it has been a very interesting and productive day in the Nevada State Legislature. My name is Michelle Mortensen. I am simply the moderator for you here today so that we can have all of your questions and concerns addressed. But as many of you know, today was a big day for Second Amendment rights in the legislature. I'm going to warn you right now, we've had some technical difficulties at the very beginning of the show because there are so many people tuning in the legislature right now to see what's going on with the judicial hearings involving Second Amendment rights. That's right. Second Amendment rights are being discussed right now in the judicial committees, a joint committee of the Assembly and the Senate Judicial Committee. And so we're going to hand things over to Assemblyman Bert Gurr right now to give us an update on what exactly is happening with these bills. All right, Assemblyman Bert Gurr, tell us all about it. What's happened here today so far?
Thanks, Michelle. It is amazing what's going on here. There are probably 150 people in the meeting room just down the hall from me. They've been going for 4 hours. I've only been able to hear part of it because I've been in committee meetings myself, but the for and against is going back and forth. Who knows where it's going to end up? They're on their third bill now. They've heard 354, 357. Those are both assembly bills. And now they're hearing Senate Bill 171. And it is just kind of a nightmare in there for people who have to sit and listen to this back and forth. It's pretty amazing how busy it is. There's a lot going on in there, a lot of conversation. Unfortunately, most of the people who wanted to ask questions from the assembly side, they only get one question. So they can't follow up. So it made it pretty tough on a couple of the people that wanted to ask more and more questions of the people presenting. But it's going forward. We'll know more tomorrow, probably. I mean, it's still a process, and the process is long and involved. They'll hear it today in a joint committee, which was a little unusual. I have Greg Hafen in the room with me, and Greg knows a whole lot more about how the process works than I do. I'm learning. But Greg, is it usual to have the joint committees of judiciary hear these bills like this?
Yeah, Bert. So when we have the big controversial bills, they'll normally do the joint meetings like this. We did this with the big abortion bill in 2019. Obviously, these are, hot ticket items with the gun bills. And so they're doing them jointly. They, like you said, 150 people in this committee room. They've got some other rooms open downstairs, so for people to participate also. So it's unusual for us during the session, but it is typical when they're hot topic items.
He's kind of out of range. This is kind of a small room. As a freshman, I don't get the biggest office in the United States. So
that's all right. That's all right.
So there's Greg.
Hello, everyone.
And I appreciate him stepping in and helping me out. Being a freshman is not like being in high school. Well, it is. It's a lot like being in high school. Sorry, but it's been a long time. So I appreciate Greg stepping in and helping with the more technical stuff on this. Anyway.
Well, let me ask a question then. What exactly, so many people want to know, what exactly are these bills about? Can you tell us what these bills are about?
One of them, the one they're hearing right now, is about whether or not you can have a firearm with 100 yards of the polling place. And even if it's in your truck, you can't be within 100 yards. And they don't want open carry, closed carry. It's not a very big bill. This one's not a big bill, but it is mostly about carry and carry around election or polling places. The other two bills are about if you're 21 years old, you can buy a gun, otherwise you can't. And they're using, they're here somewhere underneath it. Hang on a minute. I was ready, but I'm not now. Technical difficulties screwed me up. Yeah, that's not it either. Anyway, I think it's 354 is the 21-year-old bill. You have to be 21 to buy an assault type weapon. No, a semi-automatic weapon. So that means a semi-automatic shotgun, semi-automatic center fire. What was the other? There were three types you couldn't buy. Well, and then the component pieces.
Yeah, and the other interesting part of that, and I had a discussion with one of the proponents of the bill, is a double barrel shotgun constitutes a semi-automatic because you just pull the trigger twice. And I'm like, isn't that what Joe Biden said he wanted everybody to have, is some double barrel shotguns? I'm going, but now you guys want to ban them? I mean, I don't understand. What are you doing here? So it's a mess.
Some of the testimony I heard was pretty interesting this afternoon. In between meetings, I had it on in my office, and a lot of the people on the right side of this issue were saying, well, wait a minute. If you're, and it was one of the senators tried to ask this question and couldn't get it done because the committee chair cut him off. Ira Hansen tried to ask it to the extent that, you want to wait until you're 21 because you're immature, your brain's not fully functioning yet. You can't do this, you can't do that. And he tried to ask, well, what about converting transgender before you're 21? And she cut him off. But another guy snuck it in. Jim DeGraffenreid, the Republican committee man, got it in there to ask that question: is, why? If you're too immature to handle a semi-automatic shotgun, shouldn't you be too immature to handle changing gender? That did not get answered, but it got asked, and there's a whole lot of that going on. So that was probably the most interesting question and non-answer in the whole thing.
I think one of the things quite a few people really want to know from you guys is, because the Democrats are in a clear majority, these gun bills will probably pass, even if every single Republican stands strong and votes no. The Democrats do have the votes to get these passed. But we have a Republican governor who can certainly say, hey, just because you passed them doesn't mean that I'm going to sign them. So what is the word on the street? What is the word that you're hearing there in Carson City? What do you think is going to happen with these? Can you give us any insight?
I would think that the governor will give it a look. I don't know if he's going to be able to veto them, and I'm not going to put words in his mouth one way or the other. We would want him to. We'll put it that way. We would want him to stop those bills, and maybe if it goes back to the Senate, they can get him. They won't be able to override the veto. But as with a lot of these bills where we're playing defense right now, we shouldn't put the governor on the hook for answering questions that are, a month away yet, or 2 months.
I will. I say he vetoes them. If they go over as is right now, I say he does.
Well, I say he does too. I just don't want to put him on the spot yet.
Now they may amend the bills and water them down to where they're absolutely do nothing bills. We've seen that time and time again in this building where they literally gut the entire bill. They water it down so it says nothing, and then the governor might be willing to go with something like that. But as is right now, I just can't imagine him not vetoing.
He doesn't have a choice if they go over there, in my mind. I mean, I was trying to soft sell it so I didn't put him on the spot, but when you look at it, there is no way with at least, with all three of those bills, he cannot not veto them. I don't see any way he could. They're horrible. They're really horrible. And the one bill where you have to be 21 to buy a gun, you have to be 21 to be out in the field with your parents with a gun. You can't be, they said 14 to a certain age you could be out there, but you can't handle a semi-automatic, so you can't have a double-barreled shotgun. I didn't know they had that in there. And you can't handle a semi-auto, which most of us like to shoot because the recoil is less. So with and the question was asked, if I have my kids out there doing this, what's going to happen? And the presenter of the bill, the leader, the speaker, the leader of the majority in the assembly said, it's probably going to be a law enforcement issue where they decide what they're going to do about it. So they don't even know how to define the bill, in my mind.
Now, Lee has a question. If the governor does veto these bills, can the Senate, he says, will the Senate Republican caucus hold together and sustain his veto? If he vetoes it, is there anything that can be done by the legislature to overturn that veto?
I believe it's a 2/3 vote out of the Senate to overturn it.
Correct.
And if there's they won't get 2/3 out of that. If it came over here, they might. But in the Senate, he if he vetoes it, it'll sustain.
All right. That is good to know. And so the hearing is going to go.
said that wrong. When he vetoes it.
There you go,
When he
Bert.
vetoes it. All right, there you go. There you go. All right. Well, it has certainly been a very big day. This hearing might go throughout the night. I know it could go for quite some time. And if it does get if all these bills, if they pass through hearing, then they will go for votes on the Assembly and the Senate floor. Is that how the process works?
Yeah, they'd have to go to work session first. And at work session, they could propose an amendment. I would anticipate that these go to work session, they get passed out by party lines, and then they end up swapping houses.
All right. All right. Well, we do these town halls. I know Assemblyman Hafen has done quite a few of these town halls for his constituency and fellow Nevadans. Bert, this is your first town hall for your constituency and your fellow Nevadans. You guys do share a big part of Nye County and the rural parts of Nevada. And I know, Bert, you have a bill that you're working on that would really change things for a great deal of rural Nevadans when it comes to transportation, particularly air travel. So let's talk about a bill that I think both of you are. I think Greg is a co-sponsor on this bill as well. It's about improving air transportation in Elko and other small airports in rural areas. Tell us about that bill and why this was so important to your district, District 33, and of course Greg's district, District 37, 36 as well.
Well, it's a rural airport bill. It's combined two bills. The Nevada League of Cities jumped out last fall and put in a bill, and nobody really seemed to inform those of us who could help them what they were doing. So when I got in here, we had a lady who works or is lobbying for the Nevada Aviation Association. They had a bill they were going to run. They wanted me to run it for them. So I said, sure, if it helps air service, which their bill was for infrastructure on these rural airports. So we got the Nevada League of Cities to help us roll the bill into one. It's AB 429. It's going to be heard in revenue on Wednesday afternoon, which is remarkable because it just dropped last Monday. And it's going to provide, if we get it, my throat's gone. It's been a long day. If we get it out of committees, it's a $10 million appropriation to help provide air service to small rural airports and a $2 million appropriation for infrastructure. So it's really the important bill for me in this session. There's several bills that are going through, that have sailed through so far that look like they're going to go, but they're not big bills. We're pushing them pretty hard, but they will go. They help air service. They help emergency service. And the other one is to help you not get fried when you dig in your backyard. So those two bills are, although they're significant, they're not as big as AB 429. And like I say, we're going to hear it in revenue. It looks like 5 o'clock on Wednesday. So anybody who's listening to this and want to call in and support, I'd appreciate it.
And maybe Greg, you can add a little bit to this as well, though. Why would this be such a huge deal for rural Nevada? I know Bert and I were talking earlier in the week. Right now, if you're in Elko, you have to drive several hours to Reno or Salt Lake City or Vegas to get a flight. How would this change things for people who live in Caliente or Elko or parts of Nye County? How would enhancing these regional airports really change things, Greg?
Yeah, so this is, like Bert said, it's not just the Elko airport. It's all the rural airports could go in and try to get a little tiny piece of this here and there, and really open up access to the smaller airports throughout the state. It's a great bill. I sit on revenue, so I'll be there, Bert. I'm going to ask you all the tough questions. And
that's what friends are for.
And then hopefully we can get some support from the other side of the aisle on it. You got a hearing, which is a very positive sign, especially with the deadlines coming up. And then once we could get it out of revenue, it'll go over to Ways and Means, which I also sit on. So does our Senator Gokachia. And so we'll be trying to help fight for that to get some of those funds appropriated. And I'll just kind of give a little side note. Right now, the state is sitting in a very good financial position. But what we do know is that it's not always going to be this way. A lot of the financial institutes think that either by the end of this year or next year, we're looking at a recession. And so from the Republican side, we don't want to go and obligate these funds in perpetuity. So we don't want to go and create new programs and spend money on things that go on and on and on forever. We're looking at things just like this. We're looking for one-shot appropriations, that it's one time, it's not continuous. So then that way we're not in a financial hardship in 25, 27. We're able to shore things up. And we won't have those one shot. We call them one shot appropriations when we come back in 25 and 27. But it really puts us in a good financial position. And so this is a great use of some of those funds that have come in, and also keep us in financial stable place moving forward.
That's great. Now we've got a question right now from someone named Thomas Bruns. He is joining us through the link that we sent out through your email newsletter, Bert. He says, "What about raises for state workers? What's your view on that?" And as Greg just mentioned, this year we're doing great financially. It's a great year financially for the state of Nevada. We have this huge surplus. We're able to talk about doing more for education, opportunity scholarships, things that we were not able to do in the past. But as we all know, a recession could be happening here in the future. We don't know what the rest of the 2020s is going to look like. So what's your opinion, Bert, on raises for state workers? Are there a lot of bills that are even considering that at this point?
I assume there are. They don't come in front of my committees, government affairs, natural resources, growth and infrastructure. We don't hear those bills. It rely on people that are in revenue and ways and means like Greg is. But I believe the governor built in some raises for state employees in his budget, and whatever's there, I think it's great. Let's keep them going. And I know that there's a huge shortage of employees down here. That's why we're probably 2 weeks behind right now. There's not enough people working in this building to keep up with the laws and the bills we're trying to pass. So, yeah, I think it's a great thing. I think the governor build it into the budget, and Greg would absolutely know more about where that's at.
Yeah, so the governor's got a recommendation. It's kind of twofold. One, he wants to square up some of the non-union employees that didn't get the same raises that the union employees got, and then also continue with some raises. He's looking at an 8% raise across the board for this year. And then a 4% raise for next year, which fits right in with the budget. We still have enough to fully fund the rainy day fund and have a 5% ending balance. Now, having said that, I can tell you that the Democrats have proposed, and I want to say it's about a 30% increase in pay for state employees. And ironically, the governor's been proposing a $2,000 bonus for retention, which goes back to hey, we can afford to do it now. We'd like to give you these bonuses, but we're not sure where we're going to be in the future. Well, what the Democrats have done is they're saying, no, we only want to give them $1,000 bonus, but we want to raise their salaries 30%. And I actually went on the record during the committee hearing saying, hey, I'm looking at these numbers and the breakdown, and we don't have this money. Where's this money coming from? And our own fiscal staff said on the record, we will have to go and do calculations because we have no idea where that money is going to come from.
Wow.
Well,
all right.
The $2,000 bonus and
the
8%.
Yeah, we're absolutely good with the governor's proposal to give the $2,000 bonus and an 8% raise. And that's something that we all support because we all support our governor's proposition. And feel that our state employees under Sisolak were absolutely neglected.
So that equates to a 12% pay raise over the next 2 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Well, Bert, we have quite a few people joining us through the link that we sent out through your email. We've got about 30 people online with us right now. One of those people are Ron Ruth, who said, sorry, I was late, but I want to know what committees you're on. So we've heard what committees Greg is on, but Bert, what committees are you on right now? And what has your committee experience been like as a freshman legislator?
That's my old friend, Ron Ruthie in Las Vegas. Hi, Ron. I'm on natural resources, government affairs, growth and infrastructure, which used to be called transportation. Government affairs meets every day of the week, unless they don't. But every day of the week, used to be 8, now we get in at 9, so that's lucky. And I'm having a great time on that committee. I mean, I really am. It's a lot of the stuff that, you deal with on a daily basis if you're in government, but we get to see a lot of things going on and talk about issues that make sense. Infrastructure, transportation has been more of a challenge, but the funny thing is, not the funny thing, at this stage in my life, I've seen a lot of what they're talking about, and I can actually discuss it with them. The natural resources, oh my God, that's a natural. That's kind of funny. I can argue with Howard Watts about what he's bringing as far as bills, bug bills. There's a lot of crazy stuff.
Bug bills. What
bills.
bug bills? I haven't heard about any bug bills. What bug bills?
The
He's
bug
trying to
bill's
bring
great.
bugs?
See, that's the only way I can recall. You give me numbers, I don't remember them, but I put nicknames on them. So the bug bill is putting not a full division, but an entomologist inside the wildlife department to make sure we have bugs.
Well, Bert, I thought that it was going to require a hunting license for you to go out and catch butterflies in a net.
No, fortunately that got dropped. That did not.
Oh, they removed that section of the bill.
Wait. That wasn't a joke, Greg. That wasn't a joke. We were considering that.
Yes, it was a joke. It was.
Okay.
Right,
you never know. He's the one who brought the chicken bill last session, so he's always on my radar.
That's why we're having fun. Natural resources. You want to talk about bad bills?
Sure. We love talking about bad bills.
I've got 2 bad bills, especially for our districts. I call them coyote calling contests. They call them coyote killing contests. That's been through the Wildlife Commission, I don't know how many times, at least for the last 10 or 12 years. They finally got it on in a bill, and it's sitting out there wandering around. It got heard. It got a lot of response on opposition. It got some in the favor of it. I mean, that's how they got it there. The other bill is one that the sportsman put on years ago, a $3 fee, predator fee is what they called it, and the sportsman asked for it. It got on every tag application. And now, because some people don't think we have predators, they're trying to change that from a predator fee to a habitat fee. Now, I will tell you that there's negotiations going on that one that may change direction on the rest of them, but we'll see. I can't talk about them right now, or it'll screw the negotiation up. But
may I ask a quick question? The first bill you were talking about, you said coyote, like as in coyote?
Yes.
Okay, so are they trying to do more to protect the coyotes?
No, they have. They don't like the idea of a group of people getting together and putting a bunch of money in a pot and going out and calling coyotes in and shooting them, and then have a contest out of it. Well, I think that's inhuman.
And Michelle, this is Gregory. There's a little bit more at the end of that bill, and Bert, I know you and I talked about this. There's some concerns that the way the language is written is that it could actually prohibit the ranchers and sheep herders from protecting their livestock, because it says that you can't protect your personal property. Now, I think that's coming out.
That's gone.
They did remove that part.
Yeah, that part they couldn't hold up, because you can do what you want on your private property. But what they say is you can call your family in and your friends, and you can call coyotes on your private property, like on your ranch. But you can't put a contest on it. You can't say whoever gets the biggest dog gets 2 drinks. Whoever gets the littlest dog doesn't get any. You can't do that. It's a contest then. But you can put together a group of people and go hunt coyotes.
So they did amend that portion. Yeah. Okay.
But I thought there were already, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there are so many protections for the coyotes at the moment, because here in Las Vegas, which I know neither of you are in Las Vegas, but we have coyotes all over Sun City on the golf course. They're running around the parks here in Lone Mountain. It's ridiculous, and they're protected because, like, you're not allowed to go and get their pelts. I'm not a hunter, so I'm probably using all the wrong terminology. But in previous sessions, senator from District 9, can't think of her name off the top of my head. She has done quite a bit to protect the coyotes. So they've been somewhat a protected class, even though they're overrunning communities here in Las Vegas. I don't know what it's like in the rural communities where you guys are, but it's been a real problem.
Well, actually, Michelle, the coyotes aren't a protected class. The problem with coyotes in the cities is that you can't shoot them because you can't fire a gun inside the city. But you get outside of the metropolitan areas and the city limits, you can kill every coyote you see. They're not protected, but they do multiply pretty fast. And the reason they're in your cities is because they like to eat your dogs and cats.
They do.
And your garbage. They get into everything. So out in the rurals, we don't shoot them in the city limits because, again, it's against the law to discharge a firearm. But we do shoot them every chance we get everywhere. And you can't eliminate coyotes. I don't care what you do. The problem back with the coyote calling contest is that it looked bad. The optics were bad because they got into Facebook and showed pictures and everything else in there of them being successful. And even this last year, to bring this bill to the assembly, they embedded, and this is for those of you who put on coyote contests, they had at least 2 people embedded in every contest with cameras and photographed everything you did.
Wow.
They didn't show it in the hearings, and I probably shouldn't make that out loud because the lobbyist had the videos and he wouldn't use them. He said it's too incendiary. Well, I looked at them, and hell, I've seen worse than that on Facebook. So, but
All
yeah,
right.
there are some amazingly weird things in this place.
I'm sure there are. And actually, this is a great question, a great segue from Curry Jameson, who's joining us through the link that we sent out in your newsletter. He asks, what's your biggest challenge moving from a real estate broker to an assemblyman? I bet I can only imagine it's been quite the transition, Bert. I can only imagine.
You know, and Curry's another old friend, and he's Curry, Ron, and I ran around a lot together when we were in realtor stuff. It isn't as bad as you'd think because, you know, as a real estate broker salesman, you talk a lot. You should listen more than you talk, but you do. And in this building, it's negotiation. It's talking to people, trying to get their attitudes, trying to find out what's right and wrong, which you do every day in a real estate transaction. You're always trying to find a middle ground to make everybody happy. We're not going to get that done here. We're not going to make everybody happy, but we're damn sure going to let them know we're here. And it isn't that much different, Curry. Oh, wait a minute, it is. I don't have 18 women yelling at me all day long.
Oh, well, are you sure? There's
Well,
a lot of women up there in the legislature.
They are, but they're yelling at Greg, not me.
Okay. Greg, they yell at you. That doesn't seem fair. All right. We've got another question right now from Konstantinos Travalos. I probably butchered that. I apologize. Are you going to be able to address the NSHE compensation issue, AB 268, and the 2 suggestions by the governor and the state Senate Democrats?
I don't know if we've heard 268 yet. 224 went through, and NSHE seemed pretty happy with it. So it got out of committee. Let's put it that way.
Greg, do you have more on that one?
There are some competing feelings between the governor's office and the Democrats. Those conversations are still ongoing. I don't know where that's going to ultimately end up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
All
I
right.
appreciate Constantino asking the question because we've talked online a little bit. But when I'm not in that education committee, you don't really get the feedback you need to have, and you don't know where they're going to go till they get on the floor, and then you're not even sure because they're going over to the other house.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's talk about education for just a hot second then, because of course there's the governor's education bill. There's Alexis Hanson's education bill. Greg, I know you're working on an opportunity scholarship bill that I believe Senator Ganzert also kind of kicked around. There's a lot that Republicans are trying to do to work on education. We don't need to rehash a bunch of bills that everyone's kind of talked about ad nauseum. But the question I guess I have is, from your gut, what are you hearing? What are you thinking? What do you think is going to get passed? And what do you think? Because this always happens every single session. I mean, it's like clockwork. Somewhere around June 4th, June 5th, there's just going to be, I don't know, a CCSD teachers union nightmare, and everything's gonna explode. So, what's going on with education?
Greg, you're not on education either, right?
No, but I'm on ways, so I've got a little bit of an idea. So first of all, Governor Lombardo is budgeted for the largest increase in school funding in the state's history. He is investing $2 billion with a B into education. Now that leaves a little egg on the Democrats' face because they've been in control for the last 4 years, and they haven't been able to do anything. They actually cut funding to the Clark County School District, which almost ended up in a lawsuit. And so now with the governor's proposal, they got egg on their faces. So they're trying to figure out what they can do to try to save face. And so they're proposing another $250 million in addition to the $2 billion. Again, that's money that we don't have. And so we're not sure where they think they're going to get that additional funding. So that's kind of where it's at is, it's the governor proposes, the largest increase in the state of Nevada's history, and that's still not enough for them. A little bit frustrating. In regards to some of the other bills, like my Opportunity Scholarship bill, I was able to sit down with the speaker today and have a conversation about that. I wasn't sure if it was dead or not before going into that meeting, but after I left, I felt like there's a little sliver of life left in it. So hold tight. Let's see what happens, but it's going to be the end of session before we know what really ends up falling out. There will be some negotiations that take place, but I was actually, pleasantly surprised with my conversation with the speaker.
That's great. All right. We've got some education questions coming in that I want to get to before we get to some mining questions that are coming in. The first one I want to take is from Scott, who's also watching us on the StreamYard Live. He says, do you have any insight into growing opposition to AB 273, the Duck Valley School Bill, from Las Vegas representatives who think it is solely an Elko County issue, as recently reported in the press?
Duck Valley, the district in Hawaii, the school in Hawaii, or Hawaii.
Yeah, that's the Lexus.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard any opposition to it from the Democrats, although I wouldn't doubt it. It's a $60 million appropriation that isn't in the budget. So there will probably be some blowback off of that, but I don't know where.
So there are ongoing conversations with that bill.
Yep.
Like Bert said, it's not in the budget. And so we're working with Assemblywoman Hansen and Senator Hansen to try to see if there's somewhere to find the funding. I have heard that, they want to see the tribes in the school have some skin in the game. And I do believe that the tribes have stepped up and they're planning on putting in a substantial amount of money into some infrastructure improvements along with a few other things. So those conversations are still going on. I believe that those will continue to go on until June, and that's when we finalize. We'll finalize the budget and see where everything falls. But they're still ongoing, and it is not in the governor's budget. But those conversations are being had with the governor, at least his team, and the other side to try to figure out what we can and can't do.
All right. Kevin is also joining us from Clark County. He has a question. Greg and I have talked about this just recently. He wants to know about anything to break up CCSD. And I know that the Democrats, Greg, they have a plan potentially to break up CCSD, but not in the way that many of us had hoped. Tell us a little bit about their plan.
Well, I know I may have mentioned that to you, Michelle and Bert, but I can't disclose that plan.
Oh,
yet.
Oh, sorry. My bad. My
Uh,
bad. My bad.
They're
My bad. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, you get the inside scoop, okay?
But the good part is that they're working on it, and
yeah,
it's ongoing. So
they are now talking about it.
Okay.
And so that is the first time. This is the first time that they have ever even considered talking about it. And last Friday, I was in Ways and Means joint with the Senate Finance, listening to the Clark County School District from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m. We had a 6-hour hearing to listen to how, I would say, dysfunctional the Clark County School District is. And I will tell you right now that Toby Urick and Senator Jeff Stone have a bill that would allow a pilot program to allow some of the rural areas like Mawapa and Mesquite to opt out of the Clark County School District. And after that hearing, I was lobbying the heck out of that, saying, hey, look, we need to, Clark County School District is dysfunctional. We all agree. I can tell you that right now. Both sides of the aisle completely agree that it's dysfunctional and something has to be done to fix what our children are having to go to, so our education for our children is better, and also to re-implement accountability in our schools, so we can say, if you don't improve our education for our students and our kids that they deserve, then we're going to come in there and we're going to take this back and we're going to start all over again with something else. And so I'm sorry I can't disclose the details of the conversation yet.
That is so my bad. I'm so sorry.
No.
That's okay.
But it is a very, very positive sign that they are having the conversation, and they're internally having the conversation and then coming to us and having the conversation because they are so frustrated with the bureaucracy and everything else that goes on inside the Clark County School District. So Bert, don't get off this call and tell everybody what their talks are. Let's keep that. We got to keep that under wraps. That's started.
Yeah, you have to tell me before you tell anybody.
Okay, good. Well,
and if
I'm the worst.
I don't remember it.
And I'm going to make us move on because I'm the worst. All right. Mark Wakefield wants to know, what issues with mining are you dealing with?
Right now, it's really quiet. Everybody's trying to keep their head down in the mining industry. So they've got
Anything
no
with that
bills.
mining tax then? How about, I thought there might be some, the mining tax that happened last session. Any movement there?
No, I think with what the miners did last session for the assembly or the legislature, everybody in this building that is just keeping their heads down. I mean, they're watching everything. They're watching the water bills. As a matter of fact, one of my bills was a water bill that they came and asked me to get rid of, and I did after I figured out what I'd done wrong. So they're just trying to keep a low profile, and nobody in the building's talking about mining that I've heard. Have you?
Well, the only thing that's come up with mining was the ending of the prepayment. I always thank the mining industry. Every time we hit a hardship, the mining industry is there for us. They step up, and they have always been willing to prepay their taxes a year in advance. And I am so grateful for them for doing that to help keep us afloat through our hard times. And what we did is we said, hey, we're in a financial position right now where we could end it early and we could take the financial hit. So we're going to take a year basically off of collecting the tax because we're ending the prepayment early. And so now we'll just collect it like we historically do at the end of the year once they figure out what their revenues are. And so, again, I can't thank the mining industry enough. We did make that decision very early on in the session. And we did end that prepayment. And so, like Bert said, after that, mining industry is pretty happy. They don't owe any taxes yet until the end of the year. And so they're keeping their heads low and watching all the water bills.
And so far, the bills are in, and I've not seen a mining bill anywhere, anything against the mines.
Well, there is a Pitt Lake bill, but
yeah, there is. I
I don't think that's
I don't
You
think it's
tell
gonna
me,
go
Bert.
anywhere.
That'll go to NatRam. So
Yeah, we haven't heard it in NatRam yet, but I've had the presentation in here, and and maybe we did hear it in NatRam. I mean, once you hear one presentation, they'll kind of sound the same. But I don't think it's going to go anywhere. How do you get a mine like Lone Tree out there with a pit lake that's 600-700 feet deep to go back and fill it? I think they said it would be what, 200 and some $billion to fix that.
well, and it's not just that
It
though.
just it puts them out of business.
Well,
Is what it does.
Where do you get the dirt to backfill it?
Well, that was the other thing I
You-
talked to him. I said, "Where are you going to get the rock?" Well, we'd have to get rock, and you're going to make another pit. That's what they'd do, is make another pit to
Yeah.
fill a pit.
It just doesn't make any sense.
But the Trout Unlimited people were in here. There's been a lot of people come through the door and talking about it, and you just look at them and grin and go, "Well, find a way to pay for them, and we'll fill them." I mean, they do no good right now, but I screwed up and told them about a pit like they didn't even know about. And I said, "You go fill that one first." And they said, "Which one?" I said, "The Barth pit, just off the Humboldt River, off of Palisades." I said, "I don't know how deep that is. Nobody knows, but it's been there forever. People fish in it. People swim in it." They didn't know about it, but it is clear. It's blue. It's a nice lake. I said, "You probably get in trouble if you start filling that one." But they don't. They react. Oh, it's going to do this. Well, when you fill that up, what happens to the water in there? You know, I mean, it was like when the snow started to melt at our house, and I wasn't home. Lee had to call somebody and bring in 6 tons or yards of leach. And when the first load went in, the water went up to the top. I mean, you're just displacing the water. You're not helping the water table when you do that. You're moving it around. So there are lots of discussions about pit lakes. I forgot, but I think they're
Well,
going to go away. I don't think that bill is going to go anywhere.
we also have a question from Ashley. Is there any discussion about feral horses on the Natural Resources Committee?
Not on the assembly side yet. It's been heard in the Senate, and they haven't. I don't think they've taken an action yet. They brought in a class of 4th graders out of a charter school, just like when Wild Horse Annie got the first bill passed. And it was pretty. They went through it. I didn't get to hear all of it because I was in committee. I got in at the end and testified against the bill, along with a bunch of high school kids. You could tell were ranch kids just by their clothes. I don't think that's going to go anywhere. It may get out of it may. You just never know. But they have a week to get it out of there now.
Well, so I met with Senator Gokachia on that yesterday. It did pass out of committee.
It did?
Yeah, and so it's going to the Senate floor. It got amended though, and so the amendment says that Nevada would designate the wild Mustang as the state horse. And my comment was, okay, don't know how many wild Mustangs there are, but everybody knows, at least in rural Nevada, that we have a feral horse problem, and the BLM has not kept up with it. And so I've been having some conversations with people saying, hey, nobody is disagreeing that we have a feral horse problem. You look at the numbers on the mule deer, they've been declining year after year. And actually, you start looking at the hunting trout, and the feral horses are actually destroying the habitat of the trout in some of our friends' favorite fishing holes. And so there are some conversations about maybe turning that bill into hey, federal government, you need to step up and start managing the lands properly. But I don't know where it's headed. Lots of moving parts. Last I had heard, though, is it did get amended. Language is probably not perfect yet, but it's headed over our way. And
well, we'll fight it over. We'll do whatever we can there. But and I think one number that nobody's paid any attention to yet, I know I hadn't, is that the other day I heard there's 60,000 feral horses on the range. The Department of Wildlife says we have 90,000 mule deer. Picture that: 60,000 horses, 90,000 mule deer. Which one's increasing? Which one's declining? And I think we have to get, if those numbers are correct, and again, it's just something I was told, we have to do something seriously about that. I don't care if they pass a bill to make the Mustang the Nevada horse, because there are no Mustangs left in Nevada. The horses you see out there today have been turned out by people who have them for backyard pets and then can't afford to feed them. They originally got turned out by ranchers that turn them out on the range, and then when they go to collect them, they'd only get not all of them. So that's kind of how it started. And the cavalry would turn out horses they didn't want. So the whole story is not being told by people who say, oh, they're so pretty. If we could get them out and let them see those starving, dying horses on the range, and it should be a good year to do it with some of these if we got them out in the spring, because there's a lot of snow out there and they can't even paw through that snow. So a long explanation. You can tell I'm passionate about it, and I think we got to get the horses off. I don't care what you call them. I don't care if you make medals for them. They're bad. They're way over their allotment levels. When the bill passed, one area in Elko and White Pine County is something like 6,000% over their allowed management levels, and they increase 20 to 25% a year. Anyway.
Well, Bert, we actually have a question from Konstantinos again, and this is about one of the bills that you've authored. I know that we've discussed it. You don't know that this bill is going to go anywhere, but I think it's a good question. It's about AB 374. He's asking, why a general ban rather than a focus on reforming weight classes to address issues of fairness? We already do that in many sports. Do you want to address that?
Well, how do you adjust weight classes with men trying to be women in sport? How do you adjust that weight class? I don't know. Do you have enough women who weigh 250, 260 to go against the 250, 260 guys? It's not going to go anywhere. And Constantine, we can talk about this in some place when you want to, but I don't see any way to adjust weight classes. That's like, well, boxers will do that. And if you go onto YouTube, you can see men who have tried to become women, who are fighting women at the same weight class. And it's not even a contest. I mean, they might last a minute and a half. I'm also adamant about that bill. I don't think it's going to get even a hearing because of the way it's set up. But with all the people who supported me and everything else that's going on in it, if I come back next session, we'll be ready to fight that bill. We'll be ready to go forward and have the right alignment on it. I would guess that 70% of the people who work in this building, not just the elected officials, but work in this building, when I've told them about the bill, they think it's great. And mostly it's women who want that split up. Guys look at it and go, yeah, it's a no-brainer. But when, we all have attachés in our office, and when I take it in to have somebody look at the bill, you see the attaché first, and they say, because they do guard the gate, and they say, what's the bill about? And I tell them, I said, oh man, he'll sign this, she'll sign this, it'll be fine. And everybody on the Republican side of this signed. And one Democrat did a lot of research for me with her intern. And she, I think, would go that way if we get it lined up right. Just tremendous support that's underneath in this building. So anyway, Constantine, I probably didn't answer the question exactly, but weight classes, I can't even wrap my head around that one.
Yeah, as a woman and as a mother of two daughters, I agree with you on that one. We've fought for women's rights for so long. It's so sad that here in 2023, we're just handing them over and saying, yeah, we don't need them at all anymore. Let's just let men win everything, from beauty pageants to women's sports. I'm just flabbergasted.
I judged the Mr. Dayton contest the other night, so.
Okay, well that's fine. Mr. Dayton contest is fine. It's
high school boys trying to help the high school cheerleader team. It was really fun.
I'm sure it was, and I'm all for it. That's not what I'm talking about. It's when those other beauty contests, yes, the ones that I'm not qualified to win.
I get what I'm talking about.
Those ones. All right. I have two more things that I want to talk to you about. And if you have any questions to everyone who's joining us here, we've got over 30 people online. Please just ask your questions now because the hour is about to wind down. But Bert, I know that you have some strong opinions and passions about something you like to call the light bulb bill. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the light bulb bill, and then we're going to talk about some of the voting bills that are before you guys. So first, though, Bert, let's talk about that light bulb bill
The
because
light bulb
that's
bill?
not gotten a lot of love. It's not gotten a lot of mainstream media attention. But I know this is an important one for everyone. So tell us about that.
Well, let's see. Does anybody have a fluorescent light bulb in their house?
Yeah,
If
everybody.
if you do, you might consider getting rid of it because they're going to stop building them. And the bill in front of us is to stop people from selling them by 2025. So that will stop the use of them. Well, and why would you want to get rid of a fluorescent light bulb? Well, there's some mercury in it. If you took every light bulb that's in, I don't know where they said it was not nationwide, but pretty big area, and broke them all out and dug the mercury out to be 75 pounds of mercury. But even better than that, I was listening to the whole presentation and I'm going, well, it's not too bad. I mean, really, seriously, the newer LEDs are good. They more light, they last longer, and they're getting less expensive. Until they got down to the second to last slide on their presentation. And Philips, who builds an awful lot of fluorescent light bulbs, said, we're phasing them out. We're going away from it. So it's a bill that is a solution looking for a problem. There is no problem. Mercury light bulbs are, I mean, you don't even know them. But when this bill sponsor came in and talked to me afterwards, she said, I kind of felt that way about them too, until she said they were talking about how many light bulbs the government's got. And she said, then that kind of changed my mind. I said, well, they're going to use them anyway. They're not going to throw them away just because they quit making them or quit allowing somebody to sell them. She said, oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure that's not going anywhere, but it cracks me up. Some of the bills you hear, especially these early ones, were just amazing about stuff that wasn't. It cracked me up a lot.
Yeah, well, the bug bill's the one that got me. I didn't know we were trying to protect bugs in Nevada, but
Well,
whatever, that.
It isn't a protection bill. It is a study bill. It's going to make sure that certain species get certain things and make sure that we have a bug guy out there running around making sure the bugs are okay.
Yeah, well, still. All right, let's talk about all the voter bills though, because there's so much when it comes to elections. And I know a lot of people, particularly in both of y'all's districts, and I know both of y'all's districts eat up Senator Gokinchia's district. This part of Nevada really is concerned about election integrity and voter ID and things of that nature. I know that there's been a lot of bills that have been presented, but where we stand right now, I think the deadline is April 14th, which is next Friday. How are we looking? Are any of these bills going to see the floor on either the Assembly side or the Senate side? What's the deal?
I think Greg has more in there than I do. Why don't you? I know he's got one. I know he's got an election bill out there.
So I've got the voter ID bill, AB 88, I believe. Yep. And actually, I was able to get that exempt. And so that one does not have to meet the April 14th deadline. We have until the end of session to work on that. So it's not dead. It's still living and breathing. It's just kind of there in the background, waiting to see what we end up doing at the end of session. I just being honest, that's what's going to happen is a lot of this stuff is going to come down to the very last 2 weeks. Once we get the economic forum projections, we know how much money we actually are going to end up having. There'll be some horse trading where Bert wants an airport and I want voter ID. And hopefully we can get both of them done. But that's kind of where it's at. So mine's not dead because I was able to get that exemption. Only a very few bills get exempted like that. But I stuck a huge fiscal note because I'm offering free IDs to anyone that claims to have a financial hardship, which put an exemption on it so we get to continue
That's how you do it.
continue to negotiate those bills out. Just like your airport bill, Bert. We stuck a good fiscal note on there, and it's still alive. So that's some good news to kind of wrap up. I'm happy. I know that the governor's got his. I don't know where that's at though. And I know
I saw something on it, but I don't remember. I mean, there's what, 10 or 15 election bills in there?
Well, yeah, there's, Ken Gray's got that one to tell us to hurry up and count.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about that. How about the one that would say, hey, the votes have to be in by election day as opposed to, I don't know, 100 days after the election? That was an exaggeration, but you know what I meant.
That's Ken Gray's bill, and he's working it. I think, like Greg knows more than I do about this stuff, but I think toward the end, a bunch of these bills are going to be massaged into one or two, and then one of them is going to survive enough to at least get a hearing. Whether it gets out, because on this side of the building, man, I don't know. What we've got to do is get more Republicans in this room, in this building.
Well, you're absolutely right, Bert. We need more allies up here with us. Being in the minority is not the funnest, but a lot of, and this is something that I say everywhere I go. I have to thank everyone that's on this because I've been here for 4 years under Sisolak in the minority, and it was just a steamroller. They just got to steamroll right over us. And so now we actually have a Republican governor who is at the table saying, if you don't work with me, I will veto your bills. And we'll come back in July and finish things up if you don't want. So if you like your 4th of July holiday, let's start working in a bipartisan manner. And I can't thank everyone in this state enough, because it wasn't Clark County that he won. No. It wasn't Washoe County. It was the 15 rural counties and frontier communities that put him in that office and gave Bert and I the opportunity to actually do some good. And so even though we'd love to be in the majority in both houses and have a governor, it's a much better position than I've been in the last 4 years and the state's been in the last 4 years. And so I have to say thank you to all you guys that have tuned in, and Bert, I'm really happy that you're here. To keep this fight going and push back on some of the craziness, because I don't like doing it by myself, so I like someone else to throw some punches with me.
We're going to end up being the tin hat brigade in the Republican caucus if we're not careful.
Oh well, I'm already there. So
yeah, well, and I'm about to join. But the other thing, to just kind of cap it off, Greg's talking about the governor, and he knows damn well who got him elected. Whenever I see him, whenever Greg sees him, I don't know about Greg, but when I see him, he makes sure to let me know that he understands that the rules got him here. So he's paying attention. He has at least one of his aides assigned to the rules, who comes around and talks to us, see what's going on. I mean, he's got people in the building all the time. And he's actually staying in Carson. He's not going back and forth to Vegas. So that really helps.
That's great. All right. Well, our last question is from Thomas Bruns. How do we contact you about other issues? And Bert, I do have your email now on the screen for anyone who wants to take that down. But do you want to give anyone else any information on how to contact you if they have questions? You have such a large district, Bert. I mean, it goes end to end, and so many constituents. We want to make sure everyone does know how to get in touch with you.
I think the email's the easiest, because I don't always answer my phone. All you do is got to ask my wife. I don't turn the sound on because I've been caught a couple times in committee with the sound on. So the email's good. I do read them, and Betty Jo out here reads them and lets me know what's going on. So emails are the best. If you can't do that, call a building, and we have a phone up here. I don't know how to use it, but I do have a phone.
So here's your number.
I think you know how to use it, Bert.
Well, I know how to pick it up. I just haven't used it yet. Here's my number. Okay.
Right there. You need me to read it?
775-684-8831. That's the office number.
Okay. I'm putting that up for everyone as well in case they want to give you a call.
Okay.
And that way.
If I'm not here, Betty Jo is, and just leave a message and I'll call you back.
All right, perfect. Perfect. Well, gentlemen, I really appreciate you giving your constituency and all of your fellow Nevadans, as you did have people who were not a part of your constituency here with us as well. But of course, you don't just represent District 33 and District 36. You represent all Nevadans, and you
Yep.
certainly represent all conservative Nevadans in this state. So thank you, gentlemen, for giving us your time. Thank you so much for giving us this very important information, particularly on a day like today where there was so much going on. And hopefully you gentlemen will be able to join us again and keep your constituency informed. I think it's also important to let everyone know these two gentlemen are the only two in the entire assembly who are doing this on a regular basis. So they are the two who are taking their job seriously and making sure that you are informed, because as you know, the mainstream media is not giving you this type of coverage. So these gentlemen are going the extra mile, and it really is appreciated. So thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks,
And
everyone.
And
your
thanks
viewers really
everybody
like your
who logged on.
beards. Your beards are a hit. You guys should start the beard caucus, I guess.
I guess we're the only two in the building.
No, Howard.
Oh, the only two with a beard in the building.
Oh, okay.
All right, guys.
Hair on his face, but
There
all right,
you go.
Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right. Thank
everybody.
you, guys. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.